Good morning. Very warm welcome to our live program of CIT NCERT, and you are watching Swayam Prabha Kishore Manch channel. And today's topic of discussion is English language learning, grammar in context, and today we will discuss the past tense and the past perfect tense. And we have with us R. Meganathan from Department of Education
Hello.
in Languages, NCERT. So sir, grammar learning is very difficult, I think, and it is not interesting in a way we studied in the school. So what will you say about it?
Okay. Hello, learners. Thank you, Dr. Alka, for initiating the discussion itself with the problem of learning grammar, teaching grammar. So we generally assume that learning grammar, teaching grammar is teaching the rules only. It is not the way. So let me ask you, Dr. Alka, tell me, how did you learn grammar, or how was grammar taught to you when you were in school?
When I recall my school time, I think grammar is just like rules and just disciplined English, I think we can say it.
Okay, fine. We need to really break this myth of saying that grammar actually means learning the rules first. So let me tell you, how did you learn swimming, if at all you know swimming? How do you learn driving? So we learn driving or swimming by doing it. So we also learn language by doing language, means we for using for purposes. So grammar teaching per se as rules is not going to help much for children, our learners, in learning the language. So let us take up some grammar item today and delve into that by noticing the grammar in a context in the language, then apply it and later discover the rules. I am not saying that do not know the rules, but by practicing the language, by noticing the language item in the grammar. So let us see now how we can actually do grammar in context. That is one. I said we are going to now practice some grammar. Notice the grammar item in the language, written language or spoken language. So let me request you to read some of the statements which appear on the screen. Let us see. As it scrolls, just read out. Then we will notice the grammar item, language item. Then we will move forward to learn and practice. Then learn the language. So let us take a look at them.
Okay.
This appears on the okay. Could you please read the first sentence?
When I reached the station, the train had already left.
Okay. The second sentence.
When the teacher entered the classroom, students had all stopped talking.
Fine. Third sentence.
When I reached the school, the classes had already started.
Fine.
The streets were flooded because it had rained the whole day yesterday.
Fine. Look at that. The other sentence, last sentence.
When Ravi went out to play, he had already done his homework.
Okay, come. Let me again draw your attention towards the sentence. We can see it on the screen again. Look at it. When I reached the station, the train had already left.
Yes.
Okay, I repeat it. All the sentences. When the teacher entered the classroom, students had all stopped talking.
Yes.
When we reached the school, when I reached the school, the classes had already started. The streets were flooded because it had rained the whole day yesterday. When Ravi went out to play, he had already done his homework. Okay, now tell me, Alka, there are in these sentences they were actually in past.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Do you see one action or two actions or more actions in that?
I think there are two actions.
Yeah. So let us see again the first sentence on the screen. It appears, when I reached the station, the train had already left. Okay.
Yes.
Fine. How many actions are there?
Two actions, I think.
Two actions.
Yes.
Okay. Let us see again the screen. Reached the station, the train had already left. So there are two actions.
Yes.
The first is the which is the first action? Let us see it again.
When I reached the station, the train had already left. I think the first one is the train had already left.
Then
And then I reached the station.
So there are two actions.
Yes.
In the, both the actions are in the past, and one action had taken place before an action in the past.
Yes.
Fine. Okay. Let us notice that. Then let us go back again to the slides. You will see again some more statements appearing. Maybe the same statement. Look at it. I have a little changed. When the teacher entered the classroom, students had all stopped talking. Let us notice it again. And now I request you, I ask you to notice the verbs in bold. Okay? There are in each statement there are two set of verbs. One for the first action, one for the second action. Let us see it again on the screen. Okay, it appears. Okay, when the teacher entered the classroom, students had all stopped. Notice the first verb in the sentence. What is that? Entered.
Yes,
Entered. And the second phrase has the had all stopped. They are in bold. Let me also request the learners there, the other side watching it, notice the both the verbs in each statements. The one verb, one phrase, verbal phrase. Fine. See the statements again on the screen. You can see it. Look at the second sentence which appeared in the previous slide as first sentence. When I reached the school, the class had already started. What is the look at the verbs in bold.
Reached and had already started.
Okay, fine. Look at the third sentence now. I ask you to read.
The streets were flooded because it had rained the whole day yesterday.
The first verb and the second verb
Were flooded and had rained.
Okay, which is the first action?
First is had rained, and then second is the street were flooded.
Okay, let us see the third sentence, the next sentence.
When Ravi went out to play, he had already done his homework. The first action is he had already done
In the homework.
and then second action is when Ravi went out to play.
Okay, fine. Let us see the last sentence, which is also new sentence. Come on, let us see it.
The waiter brought a dish that I had ordered.
You had ordered first, then he brought.
Then he can brought also.
So, but both the actions are taking place in the past.
Right.
So now let us move forward to do some more in this slide, a kind of discovering the rules. So we had actually practiced some grammar, some as we noticed the action in the sentences. That means language gets displayed. Then it said, when I reached the station, the train had already left. So two actions. Now we are trying to discover the rules. What is the underlying principle of past perfect and past? You use together. Look at it. The first action is
The train had already left.
The second action is
When I reached
the station. I reached the station. So in past perfect, you see the construction had plus past participle.
Yes.
That is what past perfect is. Then comes past. That is I reached the station. So what we need to notice in the statements. Let us go back to the statements again on the screen. You will see when the teacher entered the classroom, students had already stopped talking. Fine. So what we need to notice is how a past perfect sentence with past tense conveying two actions are happening in English language. So now let us go back to the some of the statements where I am going to ask you to answer with past perfect in the sentences. Let us take a look at the sentence. Alka.
Okay.
I am going to read out. You just supply the verb there. The players were exhausted at the end of the day as they
had practiced.
Fine, that's correct. So when the players were exhausted at the end of the day because as they had all practiced hard the whole day long.
Yes.
Fine. So the first action is
They had practiced hard the
whole day. Then
the players were exhausted at the end of
as
the
a result of the serious practice whole day they got exhausted. So let me give you another sentence where you try again another sentence look at the screen again. It appears we dash wait is the verb for 30 minutes at the station when the train finally arrived.
I think we had waited for 30 minutes at the station when the train finally
So
arrived.
you waited for so long,
Yes.
then the train had already arrived.
Yes.
So fine. Now the one more sentence, let us take a look at it. Rahul dashed for less than an hour when he stopped for a cup of tea.
Rahul had driven for less than an hour when he stopped for a cup of
Fine, fine. So Rahul was driving for a long time. He had driven for some time. Then now he wanted to stop for a cup of tea.
Yes.
So this is how past perfect occurs with past tense in a sequence of events. So if you go back again to that discovering grammar on the screen, you will see the second, actually in the statement the heard past participle statement, that is the train had already left, he had stopped for a cup of tea, he stopped for a cup of tea when he had driven for a long time. They may appear at the second part of the sentence, but actually they are the first action which took place.
Yes.
Okay. So now as a student, what should I do? Let me give little more practice for children to notice. You have let us look at the screen again. There are some more statements appearing. Let children notice it. Will you please read out those statements?
She felt relieved after she had finished her last examination. When the police arrived, the thief had escaped.
Let us notice once again. Sorry, there are two statements here. She felt relieved after she had finished her last examination. Nowadays examinations are very stressful. Yes. She was relieved. And when the police arrived, the thief had already escaped. Generally it happens, by the time the policemen come, the thief escapes. Now for us as learners, I need to practice a lot. How will I do that? When I read a statement, I need to first understand. Let me request my learners, our learners, and also teachers to notice one thing, that is I need to really read the statement, understand the meaning, then notice the grammatical form, and then discover the rules. There are three, four sequences. So what generally we do is, when we want to learn grammar, we move from rules to meaning. So we have to really do the reverse, because language, when we use
at the time of our schooling, we did that only.
Okay, that was the time, at the time,
yes.
Prevailing, and now things have changed, and research from learning point of view, language learning point of view, how children learn generally language. So we have discovered over the years, and we have moved, and we have improved our teaching learning practices. Say, let us move from meaning. When all the examples I have given here, you must have noticed, Alka, that all of them were from real life situations.
Yes, right.
Reaching the station, or writing the examination, or whatever, they playing or driving, anything, everything. So let learners notice the grammar item in real life situations. So we move from meaning, then understand, notice the form, then move on to practice a lot. Though we don't have much time to practice, that's why I gave 2-3 sentences for you to say it, or answer it, or notice it. So let us notice the grammar item. That's why we have given the verbs in bold. So let us go back again, see the screen, the slide. You will notice that she felt relief after she had finished her last examination. Yes. What we need to really notice is, what are the action verbs? Felt and had finished. Then look at the next sentence. When the police arrived, the thief had escaped.
Arrived and had escaped.
So we have noticed this. Then when I notice this, then I am trying to apply some rules, apply some my mind to understand. Oh, there are two actions here. and one of the actions is in past tense, simple past, the other action is past perfect. So which action can be in past perfect and which action should be in past tense. This is how a learner can discover the rules. Now there are some tips for learners to understand. I read a statement. I read lot of languages. One is I can you may ask a question, do I compare with my language? Fine. In those days we used to believe that grammar of one language is different from, but at one level the grammars of all the languages are more or less the same. There may be differences, there may be exceptions. For example, every language has noun, pronoun kind of things, past tense, present tense. That some languages may have differently exhibited, means written. So what learners should do is just notice the grammar item, then practice it as much as possible. I would suggest when they read the newspaper or any text in English language, let them read it for meaning first. Whenever we read for meaning. We don't read for grammar rules.
Right.
And then notice the grammatical item. Then discover, oh, this is written this way. For example, we have another example later coming. After some time, we see how a past perfect continuous is followed by past tense also. So with that we will come to it later. But the question is, how can I discover the rules rather than this one? So I would like to again show you the slide on discovering grammar. Because we need to really reinforce a lot. Let us look at it, the sentences here. This is what you have answered. The players were exhausted at the end of the day, as they had
practiced
a lot the whole day.
Yes.
So what learners need to were exhausted. Were exhausted is different from simple past. This was past passive. So let us not bother much about it, because the meaning is they were completely exhausted by the time they had to because they had a lot of practice. So there are two actions, the first action in past perfect, the second action in past. So let us look at the slide again. You will see, let me go back to show the rules. This is what a learner has to understand. How the learner has to understand is, let us go back. I am going to ask you, don't mind reading it, read again, because the learner has to practice a lot and notice a lot. Fine.
When the teacher entered the classroom, students had all stopped talking. When I reached the school, the classes had already started. The streets were flooded because it had rained the whole day yesterday. When Ravi went out to play, he had already done his homework. The waiter brought a dish that I had ordered.
Fine. So the noticing the verbs of past tense and past perfect is going to help the learners. And most of our learning, particularly language learning, is noticing things. For suppose I say, if I ask you, could you give, could I borrow your paper? It actually meaning I am conveying a meaning to you, and you notice, oh, he is asking for it, and it's a kind of request. Then if I pull out and without saying anything, so you know that I am rude. So this is what language at the end of the day, or before learning or after learning a particular grammar item, is meaning making. So for which I notice the language. What are the ways and means I can notice? Some notice when reading a simple statement. Here are lights. You say that the light is too heavy. Then the people around you will notice it. They may slow down or increase it as per your requirement. So you notice things. Language is also noticing things. Noticing things happens when you read the meaning well in complete sentences. Let me go back to the slide to illustrate why. See, when the teacher entered the classroom, has to be one chunk. When you read, this is what meaningful chunks.
Yes.
So when the teacher entered the classroom, students had already stopped, or students had all stopped talking. There are two chunks. The first chunk, they notice one meaning. What is that action? First, as when the teacher entered the classroom. Then students had all stopped talking. Fine. Second, in this I derive the meaning, then I notice it. So for which then I come to the stage of discovering grammar. So let us all as teachers and also learners remember one thing: when we teach grammar, when we learn grammar, let us notice the language item in the grammar from meaning by reading in a context, then move on to notice, oh, this is happening in past tense, why this is said in past tense. So then move on to discover, oh, this is said in past tense because this has happened. So sometimes you must have noticed in newspaper there is an let us say some important event, university inaugurated, the function was inaugurated, and then generally what happens, some newspapers write Prime Minister inaugurated the function, or so and so the function was inaugurated in past tense. But some newspapers write Prime Minister launches the scheme or inaugurates the scheme. Why? So because they want to convey to the reader, oh, this is happening, just one is just it has happened, another is it's happening now, it has impact. So what the reader has to notice the purpose of the newspaper conveying it. So if we read, then this can happen only when the reader reads for meaning. Fine. So let us go back again for the benefit of the learners to read some more sentences which is started in the first statement. Look at it. I'm going to ask you to read that. Let us see the slide again. Yeah.
When I reached the station, the train had already left. When the teacher entered the classroom, students had all stopped talking. When I reached the school, the classes had already started.
Fine.
The streets were flooded because it had rained the whole day yesterday. When Ravi went out to play, he had already done his homework. The waiter brought a dish that I had ordered.
Yeah, thank you very much for reading it. So let learners understand, when I learn grammar, past perfect occurs when there are two actions with past tense, whenever it happens with past tense, and an action in the past before an action. So now I am actually explaining the rules, which is helpful for the learner, because the learners have already undergone a noticing part, practicing part. Since it's not the real classroom, even the real classroom we can ask them, give them some 10-20 sentences, practice, talk to their peers, partners, then cull out the meaning and put it and make sense of it. But here we only made lots of practice. The practice comes by your reading and my repeating. So then they have noticed it, now they have understood it, and they have discovered the rules. So now what will I do as a learner? I start applying this in my real life purposes. For example, what someone asks you, what were you doing yesterday? You will say, yeah.
I was studying.
Oh yeah, I asked in past continuous. So what did you do before you met me yesterday?
I did cooking.
I did cooking, or I had done this before meeting you.
Yes.
So this is how the learners can start using it in real life purposes. So one way of learning English language is I notice something, I practice something, I learned something, try to use it for purposes with your immediate friends, classroom, or even while writing diary. Yesterday had started with, suppose if I had to say something about yesterday, yesterday's some of the events before some other event, I would say yesterday had started very well till I met my, let us say my friend, till I had this injury, something like that. So can we make some such statements when I speak to others? Yesterday I had thought of this, but it ended like this. So how many times the learner notices? Let me also draw the attention of learners as well as teachers that a word, a vocabulary item, a phrase or a grammatical item gets into the minds of children, gets internalized. We use the word internalized when they use it
in daily practice.
daily practice. 7 to 10 times in meaningful context. For example, let us say this word mouse, when it first appeared, we never thought that this would be mouse, but in due course we got internalized it. Now most children know this mouse only this, not that actually that rodent.
Yes.
So how we can relate, because we started using it for purposes. So now whether it is any grammatical item or any language item, any vocabulary, we have to use it immediately a long time so that it becomes mine. So we hope that this past perfect and past tense together if the learners have really observed well and watched it and followed our practice, they had received it well, and now they have to really use it for purposes. This is what. Before I come to ask the teachers, give some ideas for the teachers to share some of our ideas. Let us see how things can happen, past perfect, continuous and past tense. Let me again draw the attention of learners through the slide which is appearing. Learners, let us notice, we have noticed, we have practiced. I am repeating maybe more than 3-4 times, this is maybe 5th time. Let us notice, past perfect happens when there are 2 actions in the past. I am explaining the rules.
Right.
Then there are 2 actions in the past, and we refer to an action which had taken place before an action in the past. We have said the typical example we have come across is, when I reached the station, the train had already left. When I reached the station, the first action was train had already left, then I reached the station. So the first action is in past perfect, had plus past participle, then the second action in past. So let us notice. This is what learners have to engage. So we have seen almost 20-25 examples from when I reached the station to the waiter brought I had what I have added.
Dish that I had ordered.
So now I am going to let us throw open the past perfect continuous followed by past tense. Let us look at the slide again. There are 3 statements. Let me ask you to read one by one. Alka, could you do it?
Okay, sir. He had been studying law before he took up the practice.
Okay. Now
this is a change that there is had been studying.
Had been studying before he took to practice.
Up the practice.
Okay. Now look at the slide again. You will see that he had been studying law before he took an examination. Past perfect happens, an action which had completed before an action in the past. Now let us also notice he had been studying. He had been studying. That he had been studying quite long time before he took up. So this had been continuing may happen, continuous action may happen for a long time followed by past tense. So let us look at the slide again. So we don't have much time. Please read the second statement.
Rashmeet had been playing guitar in college before she became a musician.
Yeah, she had been playing college for a quite long time. Then she took to music as her career. Look at the third statement again on the slide. Yeah, you can see it.
Amit had been working as a manager in a hotel before he took to teaching.
He had been manager for a long time. Yeah, fine. This is what our learners should notice, practice and do that. Thank you, Alka, but you may summarize some other things. Yeah, please.
I think it was a very interesting session of our live program, and we have practiced a lot about the past and the past perfect. Both there are 2 actions in one sentence, and both are simultaneously in past, occurred in past. So it
one
was
after another.
Yes, one after another. There is a first action and the second action. One is past perfect and the another is past simple or past.
Fine, exactly. Hope that our learners have got it. Yeah.
Yeah. So it was a very interesting discussion. Viewers, you can ask any query or have you any suggestion, you can ask on our toll-free numbers, and also you can mail us. And thank you for being with us, and keep watching Kishore Manch. Thank you.
Thank you.